I'm bringing you gifts of joy. Da 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 da. Gifts of joy. Da 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 da. Gifts of joy. Gifts of joy.
Hello, and welcome back. You're watching the Gifts of Joy talk show. I am your host, Joy Douglas. Guys, this is the last episode. This is really the last episode. I know I told you that last week. It was the last episode. But it really is the last episode. We just had to make it a part two. Y'all know, just like last season, honey, things just continue on. So we have to continue where we left off, definitely, and giving you more information. But I'm so excited to have you here with me. It's been a great season. This is the last episode of season 4, part 2. So just excited. I'm excited to see what is going to be said today as well. We're going to touch on some things, but just to kind of recap on last week, you got a chance to meet my husband, and so the other side of joy is what I wanted to be able to share. Without going into all of my personal life, but giving you guys at least tidbits to be able to see there is another side of me. I'm not just always in front of the camera or behind the chair. I do have a life, and I enjoy my life and I live my life, but there have been a lot of ups and downs for me to get to where I am. And so I'm definitely thankful for all that I've been through and what I have had to overcome and where God is taking me and has me now. So I'm thanking you guys for being able to welcome me into your home, into your car, wherever you are, to be able to hear what I have to say from this season. So thank you. It is going to be definitely the continuation of the other side of joy with the silly but magnificent Michael Douglas, which is my husband and partner in life. And so I'm really looking forward to see what he has to say and his outlook on being my husband and our journey together. We have been together for 24 years, married 18 years. And so those of you guys that have been in relationships, marriage, or what have you, you know that it is not easy. And you're going to have challenges, but you definitely can overcome them if you want to overcome them. So definitely take heed, sit back, relax, and enjoy, and watch the continuation of the other side of joy. You're watching Gifts of Joy. I am your host, Joy Douglas. I'll be right back.
Hey, my beautiful butterflies. I know y'all been wondering, where's Chrissy Collins and Coffee with Chrissy? Well, guess what? We are back and we're stronger than ever on E-Line TV. That's right, e-linetv.com. Y'all, I'm so excited because on this streaming network, we're going to be doing so much. And with Coffee with Chrissy and you, the sky's the limit. So make sure you go and subscribe to e-linetv.com. It's free right now, but the prices are going to go up. So we want you to come on and jump on board right now. I can't wait. Y'all meet me there and make sure you have your cup of coffee ready.
Hello, and welcome back. You're watching the Gifts of Joy talk show. I am your host, Joy Douglas. We are back with our special guest today for this final episode, part 2. Mr. Michael Douglas, my husband. Thank you for being here.
I'm here.
You're so
I'm
silly.
in the house, y'all.
You are so silly. Okay, so we're going to recap on what we talked about last week.
Okay.
We talked about how we met.
Right.
We gave him the rundown. Hey, if you missed it, you're going to have to go back and watch it. We also talked about our brief history of how we ended up meeting, how you stalked me.
Correct.
And then how we ended up having children And so I guess where we can kind of go where we left off, talking about just some of the things that we've gone through. So we ended up having the 3 kids. We got married, and then we bought our first house, and we had Junior. So that's the last part I think that we talked about as far as that. So so as time has gone on, we have experienced a lot. We have experienced definitely buying our first house, getting scammed with the first house because of the market at the time, and then where life took us as far as moving into Sean's house, and then our journey to get here. So,
So our journey getting here really was cool. It was different. It was challenging and everything else.
yeah, it was.
But I ended up getting a job when we moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And crazy thing about it, I ended up getting hurt on my job right when I was about to leave the job.
Yeah,
And within a 2-week notice, giving my 2-week notice. And from there, things kind of like spiraled downhill because it was in between clause
Mm-hmm.
as far as workers' comp. So it was kind of weird. But we ended up basically started going through difficult times.
Yeah, so we became homeless.
We became homeless because Joy could not work at that time.
Yeah, I was still disabled. So we became homeless. I was still disabled. Then your dad got sick.
Yeah, then my dad got sick.
Yeah.
And then when my dad got sick, probably a week later, even if it was a week, he ended up passing away.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a really hard time in my life.
So not only were we homeless, your dad got sick. He ended up passing, but we were in 2 different shelters with our kids. So Mike was with our son, and I was with the girls. We would see each other during the day, but after the kids would get out of school, or when we would take them to school in the morning, and then we would have to go our separate ways. So that was a challenging time, especially with your dad passing.
Yeah, when my dad passed, I wanted to share this story that I remember the night we came back. It was late, and again, like Joy said, she had to go to where she was staying at, and me and Michael had to go to where we were staying at. And Michael was really young, and I was just at a point where only thing I remember was I was having a hard time. I remember one scripture came to mind, and weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Never really understood what that meant until that night. I was like, God, if you could just let me wake up in the morning to see something, the sunshine, something different. I know I'll be okay. I know I'll be okay. And that was probably one of the longest nights ever, because I remember holding my son, but I remember God holding me and comforting me through that night. And that right there, it took a lot. It took a lot.
I didn't know what you were dealing with. There was a lot for us to be having to be separated because of the shelter situation. We were in transitional shelters, and then with me and the girls, I just remember, and it was so uncomfortable for me. I don't know if it was really uncomfortable, you know, how you felt, but it was so uncomfortable to be in a place that you're not familiar with. It was someone else that was sharing the shelter with us. So, and not knowing that person, and you know, I'm a little funny when it comes to people knowing my business and stuff. But that was a really trying time. And it's almost like, when I think about it now, if we could get through that, we could get through anything. But that was not the last thing that we had to deal with. But so just to be able to tell the audience, whether you're married, whether you're single, no matter what's going on with you, our faith is what got us through a lot of hard times, especially that time to lose your home, then find out that your father and father-in-law are sick, and then to lose him to death. And in two different transitional housings, that was not easy at all. But we got through it. We tried to make it comfortable for our kids, especially because they still had to go to school. So let me fast forward a little bit, because I know people often wonder, like, how did I get started on the journey of doing hair? And that's actually where it started at, which
Right.
was crazy. I had been disabled for like 3 or 4 years, and I couldn't work. And I tried. It was one time that we went to the library, because we would go to the library a lot with the kids after school, and I tried to. I had been applying for jobs. I don't know if you realize this.
Yeah, I remember.
So I had been applying for jobs and end up a victim of a job scam. I went outside that library, y'all, and I was going to curse God. I was going to go off. And before I can even do that, I heard the Holy Spirit say, go and apply for beauty school. And I'm sitting there like, I ain't got no money. I ain't got no place to stay. How in the world am I going to apply for beauty school? But that's how that season started to kind of change around for us. So, yeah, that was crazy. It was crazy. So we ended up leaving that transitional home, and then we ended up together.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So that was right. So I got into beauty school, because I think I told that story on the last season. So if you did not watch it, you did go back and watch it. But I ended up getting into beauty school, and like the week that I got into beauty school, we ended up getting a phone call from New Birth Transitional Homes, and they put us in a place together. Yeah. So our journey continued, and by faith, we did okay for that period of time. So
And then from there, I ended up getting a job.
Yeah, a job with the DeKalb County. Yep.
Ended up moving into our own apartment.
Yep. So, and y'all, even in all of this, we had to still raise these kids, and I think that was more challenging for me, because having to be responsible for somebody else's not understanding of what we're going through and what we're dealing with. The kids never really asked any questions, I think, because we communicated with them as much as possible to let them know, hey, as long as we together, we good.
But you remember, we ended up, before we got our apartment, before I got the job with the DeKalb County, we went from the transitional housing, because it came to an end. And we had to move into a hotel.
Right. That's crazy, because I forgot about that.
Yeah, we ended up moving into a hotel by Stonecrest.
Yeah. And we were there for a couple of months.
Right.
Yeah. Before you got the job at DeKalb County.
But that hotel was like, what, $75 a night or something like that?
I don't know. I don't even know how we paid.
Right.
I mean, people would give us money. Not everybody, a lot of people did not know what we were dealing with. So let's hit on that, because whatever you're dealing with, whether you don't want to share it with anybody or not, sometimes you can't tell everybody what you're going through, because they're not going to understand. And I don't care if it's mama, daddy, sister, brother, cousin, grandmama, because we told some people and they didn't believe us that we were homeless. And so, but my family was able to help. I remember that, they would send money. Mama would do certain things, my sisters, and your mom. Yeah. So it was limited of who we could tell when we were going through what we were going through. So don't feel ashamed of what you're dealing with. Just definitely seek God on how to go through that transition.
I believe that process was necessary. I don't know about for you, but it was.
Yeah,
for me.
definitely.
Because with the background that I have, to be able to work, for me not to be able to have a job during that season, I know God was taking me to another place. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time, I ain't tell you this. I remember one time I took the kids to school, and I was just like, Lord, I don't know what's going on. Why can't I find no job? Nothing. And I ended up going to the roof of the hotel. Went to the roof of the hotel.
What? Yes. Where you gonna jump?
I was gonna jump. But he's like, you can't quit here. He said,
wow.
I can't allow you to do that.
Wow.
Because it was just so much that I didn't understand. Because being so young,
Right.
you know, that I could have just ended it, but I was like, no, I can't, you know.
Wow. I never knew that.
Because that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
mean,
lot.
you being the head of the family,
Right.
don't have
People
a job.
depending on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Whew. Y'all, on that note, I'm going to take a commercial. We're going to be right back. You're watching the Gifts of Joy talk show. I'm your host, Joy Douglas. Hello, and welcome back. You're watching the Gifts of Joy talk show. I am your host, Joy Douglas, and I have my husband, my other half here, Mr. Michael Douglas. Thank you for being here, Mike.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's start where we stopped off. Behind the scenes, you said something, and I wanted the audience to be able to hear that. So where we left off is that you were sharing with me for the first time that when we were staying at the hotel, you went to the roof getting ready to jump, and how God spoke to you and told you couldn't jump. So elaborate on that just a little bit to share with in case somebody is watching.
Well, sometimes you feel like you're inadequate to be able to provide for your family, and it puts you in a hard spot, especially for men, being the sole providers or breadwinners of their family. For them to be at a low point and not be able to do the things that he desires to be able to do for his family, it puts you mentally. It puts you in a place where you just want to give up. I mean, you're doing everything you can do, trying to do everything that you can do, but things are just not working out.
Right.
But God spoke to me and was like, no, I can't give up. Some things gonna turn around, and things did start to turn around after that.
Yeah, they did, because some time went on where we were still at the hotel, and then we ended up going. You ended up getting a job, right? With DeKalb County, and so we moved into our own apartment. Was there for a few years. Faced another challenge because I think with that, and I don't think we've talked about it since that happened, but we were like at odds with each other during that time.
Yeah.
I think I had just finished school, so I was working in a corporation for hair that was hair, and not in a my own salon or in a booth rental. So I was doing commission, and the money was not good at all.
Right.
But hey, you got to have humble beginnings. You got to start somewhere. But we were at odds with each other because you were dealing with stuff on your job, dealing with stuff with your health, dealing with stuff at home. And we ended up displaced again.
Right.
So we left that apartment thinking that we were moving into a house, right? Was it
either a house or
another apartment?
Right.
And so we ended up displaced again for a few months. Ended up going to stay with friends. Had some challenges with our children during that time. They were off them older two were off the chain.
Yes.
They were going through their transition as teenagers. So we experienced having to get up in the middle of the night, drive all the way to Tennessee, because they had stole the car from the granddad.
From my granddad.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness, y'all. So, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So we dealt with that, and we were on the verge while we were staying there with our friends. At one point, we were on the verge of divorce. Yeah, it had just gotten so hard and so overwhelming.
I guess one not understanding the other is more than anything.
Yeah, because we didn't communicate. You worked all the time. I was not at that corporation anymore, but I was booth renting, suite renting at the time with Leah. And so you doing your thing and I was doing mine and not really communicating. So communication is definitely key because I've told you guys before, we are individuals that come together that decide to be married and be one. But if you don't share what's going on with you mentally and emotionally, that can really take somebody off the deep end because you're assuming things.
Right. And basically, what you saying that assuming things, you're still the first part one. We was talking about how people change. Mm-hmm. So assumption of things is also dealing with the change, how people change from one point to the next point,
right?
You know,
in their lives,
right? Yeah. Right. Not understanding that even though I was at work all the time, I didn't understand you were growing to a totally different joy.
Yeah. So you were saying that we pretty much were growing, and I was growing into a different person.
Yes.
Yeah. So and you know what? The fact that I had started a new career, so I had been in school, started a new career. Neither one of us was sure how that career was going to be looking, but something in me, I just could not shake it. It was like I had to continue on to see where it was going to take me, even though it was challenging because remember, it was weeks that I didn't even make any money. Being at the suites, and so
and me, I can understand that. I'm like, how are you working all these hours and putting all this time in, and I'm putting all these hours in, and I'm bringing in money, but you're not bringing no money in. So it's it was a rough. So
that was a challenge, and I have often shared. I don't know if you realize it on some of the lives where, for people to understand that you haven't always supported me in my career because. It wasn't that you probably didn't want to, but you didn't understand.
Understand it.
Yeah. So you know, you never know what people are dealing with in their relationships because you see one thing and then it's total opposite. Because I'm gonna tell y'all something too. I've told y'all this before. I never stopped looking the way I look going to school. Because in my mind, I thought about what my mom always said. You look good, you feel good. And it wasn't to put a front or anything like that, but everything we were dealing with, do I need to look like a bomb too?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Look like what I was going through. So
what does homeless look like?
Right, right. Because homeless is displaced.
Or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's different. So we got through that patch, and we ended up
moving into a townhouse.
Moving into the townhouse. And that was a lot better because that prepared us to be able to move into our house. Yeah. So let me back up just a little bit because I wanted to share something while when we were displaced. I don't know if you know this, but there was a time that we were talking about divorce, and I was dealing with so much stuff mentally and spiritually and emotionally. I remember walking around feeling like I was like floating on air. And that I literally was just existing. I had lost a whole lot of weight then. You remember that?
Yeah.
Where I had lost all that weight. Wish I could get back there without the stress. but I remember in that room that we stayed in at our friend's house, I remember feeling like I wasn't going to wake up the next day because I was so bombarded with everything that was going on and I could not understand. And then plus I was coming into this new person, you know, so being responsible for 4 children at the time and starting a new career and coming into this new person and then having to, you know, of course, being married and having to make sure that you're straight. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a whole lot.
we didn't have time to really
spend
spend
with each other. Yeah.
Because all the money we was bringing in was going to bills and to the kids.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. I don't often think about those times. So, and it's not that I've put them behind me, but I think they come up when they need to come up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To be able to share with somebody else. So let's fast forward.
Yes.
So we moved into our townhouse. And then we went on this journey of purchasing our home.
Right.
That was interesting too.
I don't know what was interesting for you for.
It was interesting because when we didn't get that one particular house I wanted, I'm thankful. I'm thankful now.
Yes.
But yeah, so
we would have to go through the disappointment of
not getting the contracts
on
the houses.
And then from there, it was a good thing because the house that we're in now, we've always seen it. We never recognized it.
Yeah.
We kind of like looked at like 3 houses in the same
subdivision and never knew that house was there.
Right.
Yeah, because it did not have a for sale sign.
Correct.
So it was like it was waiting there just for us.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It had everything you wanted. Only thing it don't have I need is a bigger closet.
Trust me, she's still working on that.
Yeah, I'm still working on that. But even to be able to let people know that everything that we went through to get to the house situation, it didn't stop there.
No.
It didn't stop there. So we fast forward to getting into our home. Everybody that's bought a home know that can be a challenging process anyway. Paperwork, making sure they get the right documents, making sure everything lines up. But we moved into our home, like our dream home.
Yes.
And my husband is working. I'm working at the salon I just left. And then you get hurt.
I get hurt.
On your job.
On my job. 2017.
2007. December, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like December
Yeah.
2017. Yeah. So, y'all, we're going to elaborate on that because that is definitely a big part of how you get to see the other side of joy, to be where I am now. We'll be right back. You're watching the Gifts of Joy Talk Show. I'm your host, Joy Douglas. Hello, and welcome back. You're watching the Gifts of Joy Talk Show. I am your host, Joy Douglas, and I have my other half here, Mr. Michael Douglas Sr. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So we left off getting into our home that we're in now, and you getting hurt on your job that caused you to be out of work for 4 years.
4 years.
For a long, interesting years.
Right.
So this is kind of how the roles got switched.
Yeah, the roles got switched because I was doing what you call the breadwinners, whatever.
Mm.
But due to me getting hurt, I was not able to provide like I used to be able to provide, which kind of put a hardship on the family again.
Yeah.
But I also realized that with me getting hurt, a lot of the challenges came within them, not just physical and mental, but other ways too,
Spiritually,
emotionally, yes.
Yeah.
Asking God why,
Mm.
trying to figure out why are these things happening to me, because I feel like I was falsely accused because I had to get attorneys involved and everything. Why am I falsely accused? Why are these people not trying to help me to get better,
Right.
trying to help me on that end?
So
I remember one day,
uh-huh.
I was riding in the car. I was like, what if I would have never just failed? Why I got it me? He's like, why not you? I said, but I feel like I'm being accused of something that I didn't do. And he said, now you know how I feel. I got accused of something I didn't even do.
You had a moment.
Yeah, you had a moment. But you got to keep carrying on.
Yeah, definitely keep going.
Yeah.
So it put our family in an interesting position, but not the way that y'all think. Our business started picking up for me.
Yeah.
A lot. My clientele grew. Start modeling, so that was an income. Doing hair, and it's like I didn't miss a beat.
Right.
And that was I don't even actually when we were preparing for the show, when I was thinking about it earlier in the green room, I was like, I don't think I ever even said this is too much for me. It was like you just had to do what you have to do.
It's like stepping into something overnight.
Yeah. So, and y'all know I trust God for everything. He is a provider, a mind regulator, all of that. So it was nothing for me to trust him with the finances. It wasn't always peachy, and that easy to definitely provide. But I knew for you to be hurt and then have to have surgery, that was like an eye opener for me, because you could have been gone. With the surgery, with the injury, any of it, it could have been a totally different situation. So I think it just put me in that go-getter mode. And I hate to say hustle mode because I hate using the word hustle. I hate using that. I just like to say go-getter because hustle sounds so negative to me. But I did what I had to do through the grace of God, definitely. So in that time, we graduated 3 girls.
Yes.
Y'all, can y'all believe that? We graduated 3 girls with 1 income. 1 income. And self-employment income with that. So if you try to be self-employed, baby, it's not easy. It is not easy. It is a challenge because you're working more for yourself than you would for somebody's 9-to-5 or somebody else's company. So that was a challenge for us because still at this point, you weren't completely on board with me having this career, but I think you figured out. Right. Yeah. This is it. Yeah. So we endured some challenges in our marriage, with us changing, both of us changing, and me doing a lot of changing. I can remember you said to me one time, you doing a lot of stuff now that you didn't do when you were younger. And so I started finding myself. Being a mother so young, at 19, I got pregnant at 18, ended up having Aaliyah at 19, and I went into mommy mode. And so I didn't get to really enjoy life like you and some of them other folks was doing. Because you was living the life. But it's not, and guys, when I say these things, it is not to make an excuse. It's just my truth. Right. And it's who I am and what it's the choices. It's a part of our journey. The choices that I made haven't always been very wise, probably. But I was however, I was dealing with a lot of trying to find myself, wanting to balance being a wife at some points, and some points not wanting to be a wife, and then being a mother, now I'm being a business owner. It was hard.
It was quite challenging.
Yeah, it was hard. So we haven't always been on the same page.
With everything.
Yeah, with everything. And still don't be on the same page
No.
with everything. But we
we're-
respect each
yeah,
other's
that's probably what it is.
opinions now. Yeah. And you know I'm off the chain. But I think that's a great way to be. Every marriage is not gonna look the same. Everybody's decisions or choices that they make are not going to look like ours, and I think that's okay, because I know I went through a season of feeling like, well, I'm not doing it like so and so doing it. Like as simple as making your plate.
Right.
And when you told me one day that you don't care nothing about me making your plate,
Right.
that freed me. So it's amazing what people have, the assumptions that we have in our head and the expectations because of other people.
Right.
And when you learn how to walk in your own identity, it frees you up.
Right.
So what's your take on that?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I
mean,
don't want
that
nobody
was-
making my plate for me. I'm a grown man.
Yeah, see, and that's how you
I don't
feel.
like cheese like that, you know.
So
I don't want everything over there.
right. So that's how you feel,
Right,
and
right.
the fact that you were able to express that to me. But that was like the beginning of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
You know, me being able to say, "Hey, I'm not happy," and within our marriage, but what I realized, 2014, December 19, 2014, I wrote you a letter, and I think that's the last letter I wrote you. You didn't read it until September of the next year.
Hold on, y'all. Notice, part one, I started off with the letters.
With
Now
the
she
letters,
writes.
now I write letters.
Now she writing letters in the end. You know.
But I wrote that letter, and it was me taking all expectations off of you. It was like a conviction that I felt like, how dare you expect him to be this picture perfect man and picture perfect husband when he's learning just like you learning. So to be able to take those expectations off, really, it freed me. I mean, I hope it freed you.
It freed me too.
It freed you.
It freed me because you gotta realize, guys, when somebody speaks something over you and you don't even know it, and then you come to find out about it, I'm like, well, man, that's kind of jacked up, you know, that I'm this guy that can be the man that you want me to be in your life, but because of certain things you have spoke over me and wrote about me in letters, it kind of like pulled me behind, you know. But God told you He's everything that
I need.
that
Yeah.
I need, right?
Yeah. So having to get to that understanding and accepting that God would change things the way He saw fit to change, instead of me trying to change things.
Right.
So I don't know if I can't remember if I've told you guys before, but I look at us as bonuses to each other.
Yeah.
You can't complete me and I cannot complete you. And I think so many relationships battle because of that right there. I've heard people say, well, she don't make me happy. Well, you better make yourself happy. You better make yourself happy, because we're two individual people, you know. So, okay, let's move on from that real quick. That was that journey.
Right.
So let's close it out by rewinding, fast forwarding, and we are in our home 4 years later.
Right.
Everything's settled
Right.
for you.
Right.
And we buy a salon.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember, but you told me that you wanted to be able to fund the salon.
Right.
And you said that a couple of years ago. when you jumped on board to see, okay, she really does have a good career.
Right. Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
God to bless for you to be able to do that.
Yeah, I was blessed to be able to go ahead and support and put everything in the salon that she wanted. And that's amazing feeling after all these years of feeling inadequate. Like I'm not good enough, or I don't have the money to be able to supply the material things that you might have wanted, at that time. But to understand everything that we had to go through the process to get to where we're at, to be able to appreciate
where we are now.
Where we are now, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because they say you're a fool with money, you're a fool without money.
Yeah.
That's a true statement, because money don't change anything. That money can come and go just like that, but if you don't know the proper planning and how to tell your money where it goes versus your money tell you where it goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And being a good steward, I used to talk about that all the time. I believe in, definitely I believe in tithing, and I believe in being a good steward over what you have. So y'all, with the little bit we used to have, I was tithing off of that little bit. I didn't care. But it to me, when God spoke to me at the age of 16, when I had my first job, and said that as long as you tithe, it'll be like a well that never runs dry. So even though we have gone through all the things that we have gone through, I still trusted what God had to say. And I believe that has a lot to do with where we are today.
And let me say this. People always think tithing is money. It's not all about money. It's a tenth of anything that you put into something that has to do with anything dealing with God. The conversation that we're having right now is a tithe, because we're blessing somebody right now as you're watching, to be able to free someone, to be able to see, hey, you know what? You're not the only one going through these things. I went through these things too.
Right.
And to be an encouragement, to be like, hey, you can come out of this just the same way we came out.
Yeah, we can. Trust the process, guys.
Yes.
Trust the process. If you trust God with your money, trust God with your life. And you will see a big difference. So us being able to definitely learn to trust God individually and corporately together, I think it's made a big difference. So I appreciate you being here, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
I really do appreciate you being here, and I hope and pray somebody has been blessed by our conversation today. Well, guys, you have been watching the Gifts of Joy Talk Show. I am your host, Joy Douglas. I'll be right back. Welcome back. You watching the Gifts of Joy Talk Show. I am your host, Joy Douglas, and I have Mr. Michael Douglas here, my other half. Thank you for being here, Mr. Douglas.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. So let's continue our conversation. Let's let the audience know how we got to the point of forgiveness for things that forgiving each other and forgiving ourselves about certain things, especially when we didn't know.
Right. It's funny that you said that, because one thing you could say we battled with for a long time was finances.
Yes, Lord.
But you have been very patient with me to be able to understand how finances work and everything. But to be able to forgive myself, and to be able to pray about it, to ask for understanding. Because I feel like every time you talk to me about finance, you like beating me up.
Oh my God. I know you told me that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. I was getting it, but I wasn't getting it to
my liking.
To your liking. Yeah. Your level
I guess
of
that's
understanding.
that's what it was.
But I could probably say now that you kind of understand where I was coming from, in a position that when I was handling finances, it was I ain't gonna lie, it was kind of hard because living here in Atlanta, one income, we could do it in Tennessee, which we had no problem doing, but the cost of living was not the same in Tennessee as it is in Georgia. So understanding the challenges of having two people working in Atlanta is very necessary. It's hard to do it with one person.
Right. Right. And I know, like I said, you told me, you shared that with me a couple of weeks ago, and I never knew that's how you felt. And I think it was something you said in the car in regards to, we were talking about another situation, but my brain just went south. So I know it was something in regards to you being able to express that's how you felt, and that was never my intention. So it just goes to show when they say be careful how you say certain things, because people can interpret them in a different way, and being able to not assume anymore, because I felt like I assumed what I wanted my marriage to look like, and expected my marriage to look like based upon other people, and not realizing until a few years ago that, hey, I'm married to a totally different person, and he's married to a totally different person, and so things that you lack, I might pick up the slack on. Things that I lack, you pick up the slack on. So that being able to balance that,
right.
yeah,
work as a team,
right? Instead of, that's what it was, because you were saying that you seemed like I was against you or something like that. Something you said. So that's why I use that saying all the time that we are bonuses to each other, because people get in relationships for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Can you agree on that?
I can agree.
We expect for in some situations, the wife's supposed to do this, the wife's supposed to do that, the husband's supposed to do this, the husband's supposed to do that. Did you even sit down and talk about what you have the capability of doing or what you like to do?
Right.
So it's like it's all jacked up.
Because I cook, you don't
and
cook.
I don't cook anymore.
Right.
Even though, let you tell it, you cook better than me. But yeah, that's how our roles. One of the reasons that one of the ways that our roles have switched is because you are able to be home more and be able to do the things that I used to do all the time. And now I'm away from home more because of being at the salon or being here, in the studio with all the millions of things.
So yes, I do clean up the house, wash the dishes, and clean the bathtubs and bathrooms and all that. So yes, I do.
He is an awesome provider when it comes with that as well.
My life just didn't shut down just because I wasn't working.
Right. And I think if we had not been to the point, at least to the point of being able to recognize that our roles had switched, even though we never verbalized it, but just you being able to step in the role that you stepped into, me being able to step in the role I stepped into, it was like we just did what we had to do, and it was nothing crazy, and I never really thought about that, but that's really a blessing, because I've heard relationships are doomed because, well, now she making more money than me, or now she doing this and she doing that, or I ain't gonna be no stay-at-home dad. I mean, what?
Why
That's
not?
crazy.
Why not?
You said why?
Why not stay home?
That's crazy. But but it just goes to show you got to do what's good for you and your relationship. So hey, just let us hit on a little bit on how we have been able to forgive each other. I want to hear your take on that. How you've been able to forgive me for indiscretions, um, and for me being the way that I am.
Well,
Yeah.
me forgiving you is based upon God's forgiveness for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I look at it. If he's patient enough to give me grace to be able to do the things and be patient with me for all the things that I have messed up in life, surely if he's that example for me, why can't I be that example for you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I look at it. I realize everybody don't look at it like that, but hey, you know what? It's not a cliche. It's real. And you know what? I feel like I have the heart of God. I feel like I'm a David. You know what I'm saying? I'm chasing after God's own heart. So, hey, at the end of the day, are you a David or are you just a regular old person out there just wandering? You know, going through the motions. I'm a David. I'm a king.
Hey, I hear you. I hear you. He said he is a king, baby.
I am that guy.
You are that guy. So, and I would say on my part, I think I spoke about it a little earlier when I made that decision where God convicted me to take the expectations off of you. That was a form of forgiveness for me, because who am I to blame you for things and to expect things that you don't know anything about? If I don't verbalize those things to you, and it had a lot to do with that typical wife mode in a sense, like, well, he's supposed to do this or he's supposed to be this way. Well, that's crazy because you are your own individual person, and so that's what I expect on the flip side as well, because I've grown a lot. A lot of things have changed about me. I started going to get tattoos and nose piercings and then bought a sports car.
Right.
I'm going through some changes. but I'm thankful that you allow me to be me. Whether you agree with how I do things or not. Because I know I'm off the chain. I do know that. But it's a freedom that I have. And I gained that freedom when we were displaced that last time. It was like once I had that moment of saying, you know what, you're not going to be here all the time, but what are you going to do with the time that you have? And so then you turn around and you get hurt on your job. That pushed me even more to say your life literally could have been changed in a totally different way. You could have lost your spouse and he not be here. So with what time you have left, what are you going to do with it? So I literally live my day every single day as though it's my last. I know sometimes I talk to you about some stuff like I need to do this with the will and benefits and stuff like that. But that's how I look at life now, because it can be changed in a blink of an eye, So yeah, I live my life, and that's what I encourage other people to do, to live their life like it is the last life that you got to live. So yeah, on that note, is there anything you want to leave with the viewers?
Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Hey, just be true to who you are, You know what you can handle, what you can't handle.
Yeah. Or you'll find out what you can handle.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I really do. We talked about some stuff we hadn't talked about in a long time. Guys, thank you so much. It has been a joy to be here with Mike today, Michael Douglas Sr. as my guest, and to be able to give you the other side of joy. Just to let you know, just because you see the glimmer and the glitz, you don't know what people's stories are. And so it will behoove you to listen and to get to know people for who they are, because you don't know how they got there and what they have to do to maintain it. That's why it's not good to covet or to envy and to look at other people's lives as though that's what I want. And you become so destructive when you do things like that and when you have those type of motives and mindsets. So it's best to live your own truth. It is best to manifest your own truth. It is best to find out what your own truth is and live it to the fullest. You have been watching the Gifts of Joy talk show. I am your host, Joy Douglas, and I have enjoyed you guys this season. Have a great day.
I'm bringing you gifts of joy. Da 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 da. Gifts of joy. Da 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 da. Gifts of joy. Gifts of joy.